My name is Tracy White, and I am pleased to serve as the immediate
past chairman of the Loudoun County Chamber of Commerce, although the annual to be here today to introduce the next two speakers. One of the things I have enjoyed the most about the role as chairman of this organization is beyond meeting great people like all of you who come today, is the opportunity to really hear from some fantastic speakers that the Chamber draws and our different events draw to the podium, and these two next speakers in particular. Our lead speaker really continues that tradition of really having high-quality folks that come to the Chamber and tell you about their stories. So let me tell you a little bit about Tanya Mallory, President and CEO of Health Diagnostic Laboratories, Incorporated. Tanya is an award-winning American entrepreneur whose pioneering work in diagnostic care. Her commitment to patients and physicians drives healthcare initiative forward, moving from diagnosis of illness to sustainment of wellness. Under Tanya's leadership, HDL Inc. is poised to form efficient partnerships and integrated healthcare systems to meet the high standards expected by the global population of the 21st century. In recognition of her outstanding achievements as an entrepreneur, business owner, and accomplished leader in the cutting-edge field of healthcare diagnostics, Tanya Mallory was named Virginia's 2013 Business Person of the Year by Virginia Business Magazine. Tanya is with HCA Virginia, who I represent. I'm also pleased to say that Tanya is a member of CGW Medical Center Board of Trustees, which is an HCA Virginia hospital based in Richmond. Today, Tanya is joined by Larry Michael, the Senior Vice President and Executive Producer of Media and the voice of the Washington Redskins. So please join me in welcoming Tanya to the stage and Larry Michael.
How's everybody doing today? How are you doing, Tanya, today?
I'm great.
Tanya, before we go through your story, Business Person of the Year, what does that mean to you, and what does that mean to your company, HDL?
And of course, this is my first CEO job, so it was quite surprising that, and I'm not quite sure how it's not up on us, but it did, and I think everyone at the company is quite surprised. Personally, it means I get recognized a little bit more than I did before, but that's about it.
Your first CEO job, you say, and maybe to some degree something that you didn't know was going to happen to you until it really happened. If folks have, I know your story, so why don't you tell us a quick story of where you're from?
So I grew up in rural Doswell. Anybody familiar with Kings Dominion? That's where I grew up, and I think the population of Doswell was about 1,000 total at the time. And I went to high school at Patrick Henry in Ashland. I thought I wanted to go to UVA for medical school, and realized then I was the first of my dad was a welder, my mom was an accountant, that I needed to learn a trade that would be probably appropriate for me to learn to cut hair. And so I'm a little bit hard-headed, so I kept going and applied to UVA, got in and realized the cost. I had been working since I was 13, and at that time, I actually had to get a work permit from the pediatrician. I got a work permit, and I changed it from 13 to 18. So I was cooking in the kitchen at 13 at Kings Hideaway near Kings Dominion. There's a reason why 13-year-olds shouldn't be allowed in the kitchen. But I was there full-time. I worked all the way through middle school, full-time, went to high school, and worked full-time. By the time that college was available to me, that I wanted to proceed, and the only thing I could afford was VCU. The day I walked into VCU, it was $711 a semester, and I had bought my younger brother and sister school clothes the week before, and so I was $100 short on my tuition, and luckily they didn't ask for it on the day I walked in. Made it back in a couple weeks, waiting tables, and worked full-time all the way through college. In went on to graduate school at VCU, and during graduate school I worked third shift a week, but I did graduate with a 3.9, so it was, I'm not sure in hindsight how that happened, but I did, and so I kept going, and at the 11th hour, instead of going to med school because of the cost, I actually decided to work for a local company, and had an experience with a Japanese company. If anybody has had the time to work at a Japanese company, you get a lot of experience in a short period of time because they are very conscious of headcount. And so I was actually thinking I would be there very temporarily and wound up being there almost 18 years. And so had a lot of experience across the industry, watched the industry change. And that was truly the best experience because the world was changing in labs at the time. If you guys remember, many of you aren't old enough, but I remember a time when laboratories were actually that back room that actually helped physicians understand what's going on with patients. They were the partner with the physicians. They actually help understand what's going on, what to do for this patient, how to change the disease and actually change the outcomes for that patient. As the world changed, for the last 15 or 20 years, managed care, lots of different things with insurances have changed clients over that time, and it gave me the opportunity to actually realize personally, I watched, and I'm sure everyone's had the same personal experience where insurance didn't pay for something, or you've had someone that's been a picture of health, they went to the physician, and next week there was an event of some sort, and sometimes it's death. And so it made me realize there was a need, certainly, to be able to change. And our company is built on the idea of changing the way medicine is practiced. And we're all very passionate.
So, to get your idea off the ground, tell us about your reaction to that rejection and how you felt when you got that seed money, you actually got the company off the ground. Tell us that part of the story.
So anybody that started a company understands that it takes a little capital to do that. We went out to raise $1.5 million, and we thought that would be enough to get the company off the ground. Fortunately and unfortunately, in a lab world, you can't actually buy half an instrument or half an employee. So it's an all or nothing, and so we actually had to wait until we had all of the capital in order to get started. And the remaining 20%, and it was 500 plus individuals. It was very hard for a lot of people to understand a service-based business, but also to understand that we were intending to change what a lot haven't realized was broken. And so we wound up getting one angel investor that came to us from Texas, and he actually said, I'll give you $4 million for the price of 1.5 if I can be the only investor, and no board seat, no management position. He's a completely silent and so we had that capital come in, and it was the best decision because we took off and started growing. In January of 2010, we had 11 employees, and today we have 850, and we've been growing at a rate of about 5% a week. And so it's so that early investor, it was the best thing that we could do, was because anyone in healthcare understands it's cost of goods, and then you wait for reimbursement. And so the turn to recoup the kiss of death, but fortunately it worked out for us.
All right, those of us at the Redskins are proud to call HDL a partner of ours, and we know what HDL does. Why don't you tell those here today what HDL does, and how come your company has been so successful in your business?
What we do, and I've mentioned it a little bit about labs. Our revenue is built on lab testing. However, we are probably as opposite of a lab as they come. Labs now are very much considered the lab force in the quest of the world, and I commodity liver disease. We do these disease states very well. We actually educate physicians and employers because our work applies not only in the physician market and healthcare market, we offer the same thing to employers. We actually teach individuals and their physicians where the patient is, what the results of the test mean, and how to make change. So they come up with a treatment plan. The physicians then hand that patient back to us, and we provide clinical health consultants, which are registered dietitians, diabetic educators, smoking cessation experts, PharmDs, exercise therapists. They all work with patients one-on-one to actually explain what the result is, how to change it, and then set priorities. Then we provide the same thing to employers, where we actually teach employers. You know, we've used a lot of data. I'm an employer. We've seen a lot of data, a lot of claims. We do our claims management based on last year's claims. Blood doesn't lie, and we actually can predict risk and make changes. And so we help physicians through the work of blood tests and these clinical health. Help the employers through the work of the blood tests and the clinical health consultants understand where their employee base is. The individual employee understands, and an employer understands by location, department, or company-wide what their initiatives need to be on a company basis in order to make changes in their employee population.
Maybe years ago, a person finds out he's sick, that's the first time he's really become aware of what might be going inside his body, because with what HDL does, you can predict what might happen down the road. And with the current emphasis on health and wellness, do you think the timing of your company was perfect?
I think the timing of the company was perfect from lots of different perspectives. Not only us as individuals being more engaged with our health. Why are we more engaged with our health? Because our health's not getting better with status quo. And so why is it not getting better with status quo? There's been, as I said, 15 years the mega labs have been in the making. Their clients are our clients are physicians. We are there for the patient and the disease. And so the insurance companies have changed utilization, lower reimbursement. Physicians are seeing patients. I remember when you had a 30-minute appointment with physicians. It's 5 minutes if you're lucky now. But in the meantime, chronic disease has actually increased. Obesity rates are out of this world. Our cost of healthcare is out of the world, unsustainable. That was as a result of, lots of things have contributed to it, but one huge factor was, I don't know if you guys remember, about 10 years ago, the fat-free industry is actually crept up. 20 countries study where they only published 8 of the 20 countries. And reported fat-free was the way to go. Had they reported all 20 countries, it would have been carbohydrates. So we didn't reduce our carbohydrate intake, which is the culprit. We actually have increased our consumption of empty carbs. Our lifestyles changed. Obesity has increased. Obesity results in diabetes. Diabetes is the risk equivalent to cardiovascular disease. And so it's a perfect storm from lots of different areas, and we're all very, very tired of getting sicker, and that is those services to patients to empower them, the physicians to actually come up with a effective treatment plan. The lipid panel, cholesterol, is something that's been 50 years old. We know that it misses 50% of the cardiac events at the ER. It misses 80% of the disease. And in our world, over 3 million patients, we've seen a very normal lipid profile. 67% of those that have a lipid profile normal have very advanced disease, and about 25% of those have an imminent event pending. And so that's when the statins are here. It's the most highly prescribed drug. It actually lowers the cholesterol. But all you're doing there, lots of different factors to the perfect storm.
Cool stuff, isn't it? Wow. And I'm just a guy that does football stuff, but healthcare now is in the news. It's been in the news since the Obamacare. What are your thoughts on that? Because I think there's a tie-in there with what you guys do.
I think no matter what side of the fence, Obama or not Obamacare or whatever, your position is, my position is things do have to change. It is time for us to have improved patient care. It isn't time for employers not to continually absorb the expense of chronic disease. And I think of what that is, what we as individuals are going through in order to make that change. So it's the first time in my lifetime that I actually see there's a huge change coming with healthcare, and that's quite exciting.
You mentioned how HDL approaches companies, and with some companies nowadays having health and wellness programs, which again, 20 years ago that was unheard of. Do you have any success stories of where HDL has been involved with the company? And I actually asking a question I don't have the answer to, but you do have some success stories where healthcare costs have come down and health has improved.
Correct, success, and I think that is the results are the reason. They drive, in addition to 850 amazing employees, but it's really the results that drive. We have seen in most companies right now, we have about 360,000 employees under care right now. This year there'll be 2.5 million, and we see a 20% reversal of prediabetes in 6 months, a 17% reversal of type 2 diabetes in 6 months. We're seeing a 9% reduction in claims costs in our own employee population with the exact same wellness program that we take out to other employers. We reduced our claims by 40% last year. So we're actually results from a cost from an employer point of view. And then, of course, because we're performing additional tests in the market, there's always the claims that we're adding to healthcare costs and expenditure. Lab tests are about 3% of the healthcare expenditure. They control about 70% of the clinical decisions. So our position is you do as many as you can for the least cost and actually provide the best outcomes. We tested that in an external study done by Health Corps, and we looked at, this was our first 2 years of being in business. We looked at 14 states, and it was published in Population Health in October. And what we did see was a 6% increase in total healthcare expenditure in the first year, which is exactly what we would expect because we're testing, we're prescribing, we're treating. The entire paradigm is shifting from following patients to treating patients. So that's exactly what we would expect. By year 2, we had a 23% reduction in total healthcare costs for patients and a 55% reduction in hospitalization. So it has been quite effective. That's our first 2 years of business, and growing that fast, we did things probably a little sloppy. And so we are extending that study, and we hope the numbers will come up.
Totally self-made, down to your last nickel, and look at you now. How would you describe your management style? You've been very successful. How would you describe it?
I don't know that I can describe my management style. I think the whole company's management style is to hire the best and let them go. I'm certainly not a micromanager. A lot of it comes with trust and passion and clear direction. And so we do come up with an annual, quarterly, half-year strategic plan. We did that in 2013 better than we did it in 2012, and certainly better in 2012 than we did it in 2011. And so my style is to surround myself and certainly our top management team with dedicated employees. Not all the same personalities. We think we're the island of misfits, and it is truly 1,000 different personality types, but the passion is common and the vision and direction is very common.
Teamed up with the Redskins last year at training camp, and training camp last year, first year in Richmond, over 200,000 people attended camp. And as someone who has a business down there, what was it like teaming up with the Redskins? And did the amount of crowd, the size of the crowd, surprise you in any way?
Not for Richmond. I was actually really thrilled that the crowd embraced the new training camp down in Richmond. And it's, if you've been to Richmond, that's a special culture. And it used to be, been told to me that if you move to Richmond, it's very hard as an outsider because there's old Richmond and there's new Richmond, and there's a lot about Richmond that's changing. But we do have a lot of great corporate anchors down in Richmond. They support the vision and the expansion, and it is enthralling to see the crowds come out. The buzz within the company. We are located down in the biotech park just off of Lee Street, and probably about 10 blocks from the training camp, and just to hear the buzz within the company, within our own employees, knowing that the camp is over there. Some of them took their own personal time to volunteer over at the camp, and so it was pretty exciting for them to be here. But the impact to Richmond has been huge, and if you guys are familiar with that Boulevard area where the training camp is, it's been pretty desolate for a long time, and I just saw plans of Target's going in there, a new Kroger's going in, and so the impact to economic development, in addition to the whole Shaka Bottom redevelopment plan, is extraordinary. And now we have the kind of the history and the case study to actually demonstrate that we can make this change and impact the city, and I think the Redskins has contributed to that a great deal.
You also have a local buddy down there at VCU, the basketball coach, who I know you're very close to. You a big sports fan?
I live in a house of boys, and so I am. I have to be.
What about the future? What does the future hold for your company? Where would you like to see it go?
I say repeatedly, and it's really hard to talk about what we've done because I think we don't talk about market penetration in the number of tests being performed. We actually talk about market penetration in the number of patients impacted. And if we look at the disease in the United States and those rates, I think we've only impacted about 0.9% of the patients, and so of the country. We are in 48 states, and about 15,000 physicians are using us. And so I don't think we've even started yet. And so the future is obviously to continue that path forward, to impact more patients, to change lives. We're going to roll out our strategic vision this year with more open access, withdrawal sites, the HDL way, and make the access to our services even easier for physicians and employers to use. There's going to be a lot of capital dedication to that, as well as some strategic acquisitions to expand our footprint in the nation.
Our timer that was supposed to tell me how long ago died about 15 minutes ago. So I'm sensing we're near the end of this portion. If you have any questions for Tanya, I'm going to ask for one more, and if anybody has a question, be ready to go. Corporate involvement with your company, I mean, reaching out to companies and getting them as a company to use your service. Does that help companies save money in the long run?
Absolutely. Markel is one company, and what we've equated it to is about $6,400 a head in healthcare savings per year with our 3-year partnership with Markel.
How much?
$6,400 per head.
Well, that's going to total up, depending on the size of the company. Questions for Tanya Mallory? In the back, yes, ma'am.
Hi. It's very interesting what you've been talking about, and informative and educative. And I'm just wondering, of all the families that you deal with all of your wonderful employees and everything, do they find that as one member of the family learns from interacting with people and their testing and stuff, that they share that information and help educate their families to go out and to understand better and to share with the kids in school?
Anybody hear that?
So the question was whether the patients and or employees actually share the information with their families that they learn from the services. We actually encourage every patient to bring their family into those consultative services. So when our clinical health consultants, whether it's face-to-face by phone, by blog, by portal, by chat, by text. When employees and patients actually engage with our clinical health consultants, we invite them to invite their families. A lot of times we do it WebEx so that their family members can join. A lot of times we do grocery shopping tours with the entire family, where we're teaching an entire family how to read food labels and how to shop a grocery store. A lot of our problems, if we shop the circumference, stay out of the aisles, and actually understand how to read food labels, that actually impacts a great deal of our diet and our intake. And so walking a family or a group of families through a grocery store and having your favorite food, okay, well, here's a better and a best option. It's not to do without, it's just to understand what you're consuming. And so we read food labels, we do teach better and best. Someone's favorite recipe that grandma handed down 30 generations ago, we can take that recipe and we can swap out ingredients. It tastes exactly the same, but it's healthier. And they will do that on a personal basis with both the individual, but we encourage the family to participate.
One more, time for one more. Tanya, we thank you for coming up. This has been a super event, and thank you for the time. Thank you for the Chamber and Belmont for hosting us today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you guys for having us.